Colors to the Deaf, Music to the Blind, page 31. We are Wishes and Thieves.
I'll shed your tear, give you the truth I can find. Will is weak, won't hold your hand, shepherd you through this dark time. Truth is belief.
Come up with the concept behind that name?
Well,
we actually kind of juggled with names for a pretty long time before we actually nailed something down. And there were a lot of different things in the running, right? Which none of which I will actually speak of. But
yes,
since we are,
no one will ever know what they are.
Exactly. But we kind of came up with it as
It was a lyric first.
well,
It was a lyric,
It was a lyric
yeah.
from Lighthouse, our the lead song of our EP. The second line is so disappointing, the wishes and thieves. And we just, someone was like, oh, wishes. I think it was Mike actually who said wishes and thieves. And we were like, okay. And one of the things we said to each other was that we didn't want to know what any of us thought the other thought of that title. It was more that we all liked it. We didn't need to explain why we liked it. We just all liked it.
You guys all seem to have your own individuality, especially with performing as we just saw. How did you guys come together and form this group?
yeah.
Well, it really started, I think, with Joe and I. We've been friends for a while, and we played music a bunch, but we wanted to do a project together, and we toyed with some different ideas. And finally, I think it came down to the fact that every idea we had involved too many people and too much planning and logistics, and not enough actually playing music. So we thought, what we should do? We should just have 3 people, just have guitar, bass, and drums, and we'll just like make a bunch of crazy noise rock and have fun, and no one will ever come to our shows, and we'll just do that.
Right.
The golden days.
Yeah. So, well, what ended up happening was the drummer we were playing at that time thought, man, there's a lot of like dudes here. There's a lot of like, what you guys really need is a woman to be part of the mix. And with
He
that,
actually said you need a female singer for sure. We're like, good idea. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
So you find your lead singer. How does that come across? How is that for you coming into a situation where you got 3 guys who are already set up playing a band, being the only girl in there?
Being the only girl is not a problem. I have 5 brothers. I don't have any issue being the only girl. I think for me as like a songwriter, what was really difficult was coming in, and the guys had already worked on the music. So they had the music, the instrumentals, but no vocals and no lyrics. And so coming in, I didn't know how everybody would gel together. And my first meeting was actually with Mike. And he played some music for me. He was like, would you ever be in a band? And the first thing I thought was that he meant rock band. And my first thought was no. But then, what? I'm just saying, that's what I thought initially, all right? That's what I thought. And then after hearing, I think the first track he played for me was what ended up being Parachute. He played it for me, I heard that the drums dropped, and I was like, oh, this is not just straight ahead rock. This is a combination of things. I definitely heard the hip hop influence and the electronic influence in music, and I was like, this is dope. And we recorded, and Parachute came out of that, which is the last song on our EP.
Send me on a journey. Take me underground.
show is going to affect fans as compared to the MP3 format?
Well, it's always interesting because I think, especially in a place like New York, you get different people to come to your shows than that may have heard your music via a different media source. So they're always going to expect something. Maybe they'll expect something that sounds exactly like the CD. Maybe they won't. But I think, regardless, our songs are always kind of, everything evolves a little bit each time we play. I'd say it always, we're trying to keep it as fresh as we can for ourselves in the group. So we have the most fun with it, of course. We hope that some of that would, get out to the people that we're playing for, and they would take a piece of it home and say, regardless of whether it sounded exactly like what's on the disc, or they were blown away by something that was a little bit different or completely different, then I think the constant is that we hope they go home and have had a good time at the show.
Being the only vocalist, like we touched on, what kind of pressure do you feel having to represent the voice of 4 people, 4 individuals?
I feel like each of our voices is pretty strong in the group. I feel like there are going to be people who come out just because they love the drums, people who come out just because they love our bass lines, people who come out and hear the guitar and the different kind of like synth sounds we have, and there are going to be people who come in there that know all the words. So I don't feel like I'm representing the whole group. I feel like I'm doing my part in the group. So.
The Lighthouse EP, let's talk a little bit about, this is your debut EP. How did you guys come up with the, obviously there's a track on there called Lighthouse, but what made you guys name it Lighthouse? And a little bit about the art. Kind of looks like he's searching for something.
Great, it's a good question.
Yeah. I think we called it Lighthouse because, I don't know. I love the track. It's my favorite track on the EP. And so I was always like rooting for that. And I think, I don't know, I just think it's a really strong track. I have no idea what the guy's gonna say. And I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was sort of it seemed like the right track to open the EP, so it made sense that EP would bear that name.
And how about the art? How did you guys come up with the physical art?
Well, that was actually it's a good question. A close friend of mine, his name's Stephen Radji, I think his name's somewhere probably on there. He was a guy that I went to high school with, actually, where I grew up. And he was always known, me and him were close friends, we'd hang out all the time, but he was always known around the town as like a really amazing artist. So when we came up with the idea for this EP, we decided to actually make physical CDs, which is like a sort of a novelty these days in a way. We contacted Steve, we said, well, we need someone to do artwork, obviously. We weren't gonna try something ourselves. So I said, well, I know this guy that I went to school with, and he's a really amazing artist, so let's give him the tracks and give him the names of the tunes. And since Lighthouse was the lead-off track, it was gonna be Lighthouse EP, obviously. And I said, basically run with it. And what you actually see was more or less his first sketch for the most part. We went through some alterations here and there as he went further into the concept, but really he kind of took the ball and rolled with what you're seeing on the cover. And we just, when we saw it the first time, we were all here in the studio, we looked at his sketches, and we were just like,
we felt like this is good.
It looks great.
Lighthouse.
So just to close off with a few fun facts, who's the most likely to show up late to a studio session?
Two-handed.
Who's the most likely to answer a text message while recording?
While recording.
While recording.
Or get a phone
Probably
call while
Joe while I'm recording.
Yeah.
That's how those always go, is I'm sitting there and I have to play the track, the whole way through and get everything right. And everyone's just sitting around like
a Scrabble game or text messages.
the second that I stop talking,
Because Will actually has to record in the space, the larger
I'm
space.
usually
The rest of
watching
us go
it,
into the booth.
Clip.
So it's like he's right there, and we're like, well, come on.
So disappointing. The wishes and thieves, and now the drowning. Senses appear to be so needy. There is no lighthouse here. So disappointing. The current